This will include some reporting I've done, or rather, some people I've reached out to for more information. I got a tip a few days ago from a source who I'm not going to reveal that said there is starting to be more momentum than ever of San Beda potentially joining the UAAP. This has been in the rumor mill for the longest time. It's something people have imagined. It's something that people have hoped for given San Beda's dominance in the NCAA. And it's something that personally I have wanted to see as well. With all due respect to the NCAA, I think it's a historically great league. It's good for college basketball in the Philippines. And you can't write the story of Philippine sports without including the NCAA. Personally and selfishly, I've wanted to see how San Beda would do against UAAP teams because San Beda has proven to be an elite program in their own right with their own history. And you want to talk about passionate fan bases? I'll tell you what right now, if UP, Ateneo, and LaSalle and USC and everyone else are getting annoyed with each other in the UAAP, just wait until they face the San Beda community if San Beda enters the UAAP. Trust me, those guys know passion, okay? And old school fans from LaSalle and Ateneo know this dating back to when they were in the NCAA. We have seen San Beda go up against these UAP teams in off-season tournaments such as Phil Oil Pinoy League. However, the last few years, we can't really take that completely into account because San Beda hasn't had FSAs compared to the UAP teams. And we know how big of an advantage FSAs can be. So if they do enter the UAAP, again, it's a big if. They would be allowed FSAs and the competition would be more even. So here's some information I want to share. There is supposed to be a big meeting that takes place coming up between San Beda and the UAAP to see if it's possible. San Beda would need, I would, if I'm assuming correctly, 7 out of the 8 UAAP schools to vote yes for them to get in. There will be discussions with lawyers, team officials, broadcast partners, and all of that, right? However, and here is the big but. Here's a very important piece of information we must remember. If San Beda wants to join the UAAP, that's not just basketball. Okay? San Beda needs to be able to provide teams to compete in all men's sports, which I believe they do in the NCAA, all women's sports. So if they want to join the UAAP, they would have to do that. And recently, the UAAP has expanded to the juniors boys, juniors girls, and even the under 16. The UAP is expanding. The UAP sees itself as the premier sports league in the country, not just the premier collegiate league, not just the premier basketball league, the premier sports league in the Philippines. So San Beda would have to field rosters for all the sports. And that's where the challenge is because that means they would require more sponsorship. That means they would require more money. Could they raise that? Remains to be seen. I think they could if they tried really, really hard and if they were really passionate about this. Now, there's one more concern, and Carl, you will get this. You too, Miles. Would the teams in the UAP be okay, particularly in basketball, with 2 squads bankrolled by MVP, the MVP group? That's where it gets tricky, right? So if you're one of the other teams, are you okay with that? Right? That's also a question that I think is going to be worth asking. I should mention that I don't think this is something that is imminent. It's not something that's going to happen right away, but at the least there are conversations happening. And that's what I can say right now. So, we'll start with you, Carl. From a business standpoint, marketing, advertising, and just the growth of the UAAP, what would San Beda joining the UAAP do for the league?
It would mean everything for the UAP because finally, after how many decades, you get the last founding member of the NCAA to join your coalition as it was before in the ye olden days of college sports in the Philippines. So it would be a massive coup for the UAP. It would be a massive get for them. It would be an instant yes, I would think, regardless of how the other teams feel of an NCAA school joining them. But the problem is, as you pointed out, the MVP ties. Like, I think there would come to a point where MVP would have to choose which one he would officially back. So that's going to be the very first tricky problem. The second is it would be a disastrous move for the NCAA because it, quote unquote, I don't want to say it, but it quote unquote lessens the prestige of the NCAA because San Beda is the only remaining founding member that's still
I
in
sh-
the NCAA.
I should mention one more thing I've heard is that if San Beda leaves the NCAA, the team that could replace them would be San Beda Alabang. Go on, Carl.
Okay, that puts a wrinkle on things. So there's still a legacy school. So if ever the legacy is still there, it's protected. But
That's
if
a
you
rumor lang
remove
ah.
the
Go on.
potentially, if that happens to be the case, it's still a loss for the NCAA on many, many, many levels because it's NCAA. You for most casual fans or for most starting out fans in the collegiate basketball scene, when you think of basketball programs at the collegiate level, you think of NCAAs. In the NCAA, you think of San Beda. That's the name that's most familiar with a lot of people. So if you remove that and you transition it to the UAP, it becomes a massive get for the UAP, but not really for the NCAA. But then again, it is a potential move. It's not confirmed just yet. So there's a lot of what do you call this? A lot of factors still at play. So yeah, but and the UAP getting San Beda is a monstrous move on all fields.
Do you think it would increase sales and profit for the UAP? Because I think it would.
It's not even a question. Yes, it's
Not even a
definitely a
question.
yes.
That's a big community, right? Miles, you're part of that community.
Yes. Actually, I'm Bedan. I'm also Bedan. I went to San Beda for my law school. Probably just to add to what Carl already said. San Beda. I've watched San Beda games live also before, and San Beda shows up big even in the games that don't involve Letran. No, in the NCAA, Letran is their rival, but even in the games that don't involve Letran, San Beda generally has one of the bigger, I would say, contingents or fan bases that show up regularly to games. Bedan fans are really passionate. If Ateneo, LaSalle, UP, and UST hate each other, they're gonna hate San Beda. I can say as early as now. And we're not
And San
even
Beda's gonna
talking.
hate them back.
That's true. And we're not even talking about history in the NCAA back in the days when Ateneo was still in the NCAA. Ateneo's big rival wasn't actually LaSalle, it was San Beda. And UP and San Beda have a history as well because even dating back to the Paras and Magsanok days, up to the Messina and Bravo days, Tabique, UP and San Beda share a lot of players with them between them. So they generally share a lot. I would say they share player pool. I guess that's a joke. But there would also be definitely history there, considering the transfers between the two schools of players to and from San Beda and UP. So there's also that. And then there's San Beda and LaSalle, who, given also the history of recent transfers involving Nelly and Cortez, and maybe even dating back to Bolik. So
But
there's
hindi
also
mo
some
minention si
history.
Payosing. Dahil
Yeah, and then there's
nag-UP.
Payosing. Exactly, that's what I was saying. Even up to Payosing and Torculas, UP and San Beda share a lot of player transfers between them. So there's a lot of history there, and waiting to be tapped in the event that San Beda would move into the UAAP. So there's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of bardagulan waiting to happen, and we should all get our popcorns out should it happen. But as you both of you guys mentioned, it's still in the early stages. Although I would say, even dating back to the 2000s, San Beda has been making overtures about making the move to the UAAP, but it hasn't happened yet. I hope that whatever's standing in the way would move out. Because personally, at least from my point of view, I'd be happy for the UAAP to welcome San Beda into its ranks.
So as you were, well, before you mentioned the names, I listed them down: Cortez, Payosing, Nelly, and let's not forget all the high school guys like Arvin Tolentino, L.A. Tenorio, Ren Ritualo over the years who were in San Beda for high school and then went to the UAAP for
Magsanok and
college.
Paras.
Magsanok, Paras, etc. We can go on and on about San Beda's basketball legacy. Would these guys still transfer if San Beda was in the UAAP instead of the NCAA? Maybe for someone like Cortez, probably because there's the LaSalle connection. The financials are also something worth mentioning, of course, because San Beda would theoretically have pockets, deep pockets if they join the UAP, assuming they kept their current sponsors. Maybe not as deep as some of the other current schools right now, but deep enough to be competitive. And they've always done a stellar job recruiting FSAs before the NCAA banned FSAs, which I still think is not exactly productive, but of course, to each their own. So I think San Beda would be competitive. But again, we're talking about all of this just in the prism of men's basketball or juniors basketball. We have to think about the other sports: volleyball, football, softball, baseball, taekwondo, badminton, table tennis, and given the current report with the PSC under the leadership of new chairman Pato Gregorio, the UAP wants to add more Olympic sports such as weightlifting, such as golf. So putting together all these teams, the recruitment, the money, the food, the lodging, this all requires financial aid. So that is a hurdle worth mentioning because it's not something as simple as, oh, okay, we'll prepare slides, we'll prepare a deck, we'll send it to people with money, and we'll get the sponsors, right? Because when you bring in more sponsors, you're bringing in people whose opinions you have to value when it comes to your team building as well. And that is worth mentioning. But in a perfect world where we're assuming, and again, I should say, this is in the very early stages, it's not like close to completion yet as of the moment. But assuming in a perfect world, it can happen. San Beda can field multiple rosters to compete in all tournaments. My God, it would be explosive. And the UAP has gone as far as to say, like I mentioned, that they feel they're the premier sports league in the country. This would absolutely reinforce that thought. Now, let's go back to just men's basketball. Quick yes or no. If San Beda joined the UAP in, let's say, the next 5 years, how quickly do they become championship contenders in UAP men's basketball? Let's start with you, Miles.
4 years. 4 years. Get a good FSA, and then uh, probably try to get to secure more recruits outside of the San Beda High School system. Uh, Possibly in 4 years, because they also have to contend with the other teams having their build-ups. No, we have the FEUs, the UEs there, who are also trying to get into the Final Four. So I wouldn't say right away, but I wouldn't say for too long. Probably for 4 years, I think it's the safe answer for me at least.
And you, Carl?
You know what? I would have to agree with Miles on this point because the UAP is a completely different monster. As much as I respect the NCAA as well, when you factor in the FSA athletes, FSA students or players, it becomes a completely different dynamic. It becomes closer to the global game, which I still resent the NCAA for doing. But if San Beda were to have that opportunity to bring in a high quality FSA, put it in the likes of Ange Kwame or even Konate to a certain degree, or even Precious Momoway, it transforms them into an instant contender. But as Miles also pointed out, they need to round out their team. Like having an FSA just pushes up their ceiling. It brings them that much more talented, or their floor at the very least. But if they want to compete for a title, if they want to win, they need the talent around your players or your core players. So 4 years sounds like a sweet spot to me as well.
You guys make great points. And with that, we're going to end the podcast. If you guys want more updates, we'll let you all know. on this podcast and on All Star Magazine. You guys keep up with our reporting in case there are more developments. But like I said, still in the very early stages. Before we go, Carl, Miles, why don't you guys tell our listeners where they can find your work?
All right, Miles, you want to take this one or me first?
Okay, you first.
Alright, alright. You can find me on Instagram and on TikTok at blackmambito 24. That's BLACKMAMBITO 24. That's on Facebook, Instagram, and on TikTok as well, and also on X.
Yes. For me, I'm on the Optics podcast. It's UPTAKES podcast. We're on YouTube and Spotify. And you can also follow me on Instagram at the underscore cat underscore father. So I'm a dad of cats. I'm the underscore cat underscore father 10 on Instagram.
Fantastic. You guys make sure to follow these two gentlemen. They are passionate college basketball fans in the country and sports in general. Much love to everyone who has been engaging and participating in the conversations about the podcast recently. Again, like, subscribe, comment, leave a review on Spotify if you can. And we'll catch you all for our next episode on Monday. Thanks, everybody. God bless.